This episode is brought to you by the Canby Liquor Store. Father's Day is coming, and they really have everything your dad really wants. From hand-selected gifts that you won't find anywhere else, to small batch bourbons and unique craft beers. Find them in the Fred Meyer Shopping Center.
This episode is also brought to you by Oddmo's Pizza in Canby. Handmade, awesome pizza plus craft beer, wine, and cider delivered. Call them today at 503-263-8444.
Welcome to the Canby Now podcast.
Your source for news.
The threat of a possible teacher strike was avoided this week.
There's a new, irresistibly cute creature winning over fans, and its name is Scootaloo.
Sports.
It's like Lucy in the football. You want to kick a field goal, if they take it away from you.
We had to learn how to win.
Goal can't be in the last second of the game! And interesting conversations.
Because I'm one of the strongest girls ever, and I know that for a fact.
I just really enjoy writing gossip as if I was a bear.
With an old maid daughter that make the best moonshine in the coast.
And if it would have hit me in the face, I think I would have died. I really do.
I guarantee you would have died, man. Are you kidding me? In the midst of a widespread national reckoning on America's history with race relations, should Canby, a town named after one of the most prominent generals in the American Indian Wars and the only one to be killed during them, consider changing its name? Some think so. Given the current national discussion about place names, is it time for Canby to reconsider its own name? Asks John Manley, who lives outside of town but has studied the history of the area. I am not proposing it, but suggesting that the conversation start earlier rather than later. In terms of historical figures from the American Civil War, General Edward Canby does not stand out as an obvious villain. Though he was born in Kentucky, a neutral slave state in the war, and had slave-owning relatives, he served in the Union Army, not the Confederacy. His greatest military achievement was in leading the defeat of General Henry Hopkins Sibley during the Battle of Glorieta Pass in March 1862. Sometimes called the Gettysburg of the West, the skirmish was intended to be the final blow by Confederates that ended Union control of the West. Instead, the Union's decisive victory at the base of the Rocky Mountains marked the end of the rebels' attempted invasion of California. General Ulysses S. Grant regarded him highly for his knowledge of Army regulations and constitutional law, even though he felt he lacked aggression, a common criticism from Grant of other Union generals, and was more of an administrator than a true military leader. This weakness, understanding technical details and strategy much more easily than practical applications and dealing with people, would get him into trouble. Following the war, Canby, whose father had owned slaves, was estranged from some of his relatives who had fought for the Confederacy when he refused to grant them favors as a military governor during Reconstruction. Canby was often stationed in some of the most volatile regions of the convalescent nation, including Louisiana, Texas, Virginia, and South Carolina. His tendency to rigidly uphold law, order, and just principles, while grudgingly admired by many, often made him the bad guy in times of conflict, and he was prone to alienating one side or the other. In August of 1870, Canby was assigned to the Pacific Northwest, where he was soon embroiled in a feud involving the Modoc people, who had been forced to share a reservation in Oregon with their traditional enemies, the Klamath. When the U.S. government refused to allow the Modoc to return to their native home in Northern California, the tribe left anyway, sparking the Modoc War. The Modoc entrenched themselves in a lava bed near Tule Lake in Northern California, where the terrain offered numerous advantages to the defenders. The place became known as Captain Jack's Stronghold, named after the Modoc chief. The Modoc held the stronghold for months, their band of only 53 warriors holding off army forces numbering as much as 10 times that. By the time Canby arrived on the scene, the government wanted to talk peace, but in the tense environment, the Modoc got the wrong message, and believed the general intended to capture and put them to death without a trial. A peace parley was set for April 11, 1873. and Canby agreed to the terms to come unarmed, even though he was warned that it may be a trap. He reportedly said, "I believe you are right, but it would not be very well for the general in command to be afraid to go where the peace commissioners would venture." When Canby refused to allow the Modoc a home on their native lands, on the grounds that he did not have the authority to grant such a request, the warriors attacked with concealed arms. Canby was shot twice in the head and his throat was cut. In the aftermath, a massive force of 600 army soldiers stormed Captain Jack's stronghold and forced a splintered retreat. 6 Modoc warriors, including Captain Jack, whose real name was Kintpuash, were captured and tried by what was essentially a military tribunal. They were not given interpreters or legal counsel. 4 were convicted of war crimes and hanged at Fort Klamath on October 3, 1873. The remaining 150-some Modocs were rounded up and shipped to Indian Territory in Oklahoma, where they were held as prisoners of war for over 30 years. A ragged handful eventually returned to Oregon, where they joined the Klamath Reservation. When asked why he believes the town should consider changing its name, Manley said, quote, "He was involved with pushing indigenous people off their land. Although his history seems to portray him as more thoughtful than aggressive about the task, and he died trying to negotiate a settlement with the last group resisting the invaders, he was still part of the effort to conquer the native peoples and colonize the lands." Another argument in favor of a switch is the tenuous connection between Canby and his Oregon namesake. There is, in fact, very little. He never lived in the town that bears his name, never set foot here, as far as anyone knows. It has always been something of a mystery how and why the settlement that had been known as Baker Prairie for decades came to bear the name Canby when its plats were filed with the county in 1870. Most local historians believe it was the work of Canby's good friend and confidant, a speculator named Ben Holliday, who was known for his blunt and enterprising nature, and who also happened to be the president of the Oregon and California Railroad that was being built through the heart of the town. The town name was not chosen by local people, but given by a railroad exec to honor a friend, Manley noted. Given modern awareness and sensibilities, is the name Canby still a good fit for the town and its people? The names of many towns, islands, schools, streets, military bases, and even professional sports franchises that may be offensive to Black or Native Americans have come under increased scrutiny this year, and some have been changed after weeks of protests that followed the death of Minnesotan George Floyd at the hands of 4 former Minneapolis police officers. I realize there may be little support for a name change, but I do think the conversation is worth having so that we can acknowledge the history of the area and then talk about how to make life better for all people, no matter their background or identity, Manley said. The name of the town just seems a good place to start the discussion. Mayor Brian Hodson said no one has ever approached him about changing the town's name, not in recent months or in any of the 8 years that he has served as mayor, but he was not altogether surprised to hear the question. "I kind of wondered if that might be something that would start to bubble up," he admitted. "I mean, you start to think back to the history of General Canby. He was a general in the American Indian Wars. I do think it would be an interesting conversation for folks to have. Why are we not Baker Prairie, Oregon?" Other city councilors also said they have not heard from anyone who is interested in changing the town's name. Canby's popular Independence Day celebration was once known as General Canby Days, but its name was changed after it became a city-sponsored event several years ago. The legislature passed a Republican-sponsored resolution last year to commemorate the Modoc War, honor the bravery and sacrifice of those on both sides, and express regret for the tribe's expulsion. Canby's Cross, a monument to the fallen general, stands 3 miles south of Captain Jack's stronghold. 2 other towns, Canby, Minnesota and Canby, California in Modoc County, were named in his honor, but unlike Canby, Oregon, both came after his death.
Republican leaders in the state legislature, including Canby's state representative Christine Drazen, are taking Oregon Governor Kate Brown to task for a new rule requiring the faithful to wear face coverings during all times in churches and places of worship, including while singing or preaching. The governor held a press conference Wednesday where she announced several changes to and expansions of her earlier coronavirus rules, including requiring children 5 and older to wear masks indoor public spaces and at school. But she failed to mention this rule, which faith leaders and state lawmakers alike found out about in an email from Oregon Health Authority Friday, after it had already been taken into effect. Even as a state senator, I am not privy to this critical information, said Senator Fred Girard, the Senate Republican leader from Staten. Where does this leave pastors and other church leaders if they aren't on the OHA email list? Unbeknownst to them, this rapid rule change puts those hosting services today in the position of potential lawsuits. The new rules require all individuals indoor gatherings to wear a face mask or shield while teaching, preaching, or singing, the only exceptions being for someone playing a wind instrument or for live-streamed or recorded services that have no in-person audience. Representative Drazen, the House Republican leader, aired her frustrations on Facebook late Friday night. I have been discussing the importance of proactivity engaging the faith communities to create workable rules in my meetings with the governor for months, but instead, we get this ambush-style 11th hour rule change that is imposed on our churches and places of worship, Drazen said. I spoke with the governor today, and she said nothing. These new rules are immediately in effect, created without any process or communication with the stakeholders in my community who have been reaching out to support public health and continue to serve their congregations. Even in today's mask-filled world, it is unusual to see a speaker give an address with their face covered. The governor herself has customarily removed her mask before speaking at her weekly press conferences, which takes place indoors, as has the state's top etymologist, Dr. Dean Seidlinger. Both Gerard and Drazen highlighted what she termed a sharp contrast between the strict limitations on indoor social gatherings and worship services, which the governor has repeatedly said are enforceable by fines and even misdemeanor charges, versus the nightly protests in Portland, which have drawn hundreds and even thousands to the city's center for almost 60 straight days. State health officials have said there is little evidence that large outdoor protests have contributed to the spread of COVID-19 in Oregon. A 3-building, 333-square-foot development has been proposed for the Canby Industrial Park, located across Walnut Street from the recently completed Columbia Distributing Warehouse and Distribution Center. The proposed industrial center would house multiple users and is scheduled to go before the Canby Planning Commission on August 10th. The development is being led by Portland-based Trammell Crow Company, which also built the adjacent beverage distribution facility for Columbia, which is about 200,000 square feet larger. Unlike the Columbia facility, which is one massive building, this project would divide the 20-acre property on Southeast First Avenue into 3 separate parcels, with a phased construction of 3 new speculative buildings that would accommodate a mix of warehouse and light manufacturing tenants. Plans currently before the City Planning Office propose 3 buildings of different sizes, the largest being 210,600 square feet, and the smallest is 46,800, each of which would include an even split of storage and manufacturing space, with a small fraction reserved for office use. The 2 smaller structures would be built to accommodate 2 users each, while the larger would hold 4. The sites would vary widely in size from 22,000 to 54. How much traffic the proposed facility might generate is difficult to predict, especially not knowing the tenants it would ultimately house, but its design suggests the ability to handle a high volume of heavy trucks. Between the 3 buildings, its plans propose 76 bay doors for loading and unloading trucks, 14 more than were planned for the larger Columbia facility. A surrounding parking lot with more than 400 spaces will be built to serve the development along with landscaping features. According to the plan submitted by Trammell Crow, the phased development, which could take as long as 5 years, would start with frontage and infrastructure improvements, followed by construction of one or more of the buildings. A real estate sign on the property indicates the availability of multiple units for sale or lease. Aurora City Recorder Scott Jorgensen is moving on. He announced at the City Council's last meeting that he will accept a new post of City Administrator in Rainier, Oregon at the end of the month. The nearly 2.5 years since then have been truly rewarding, Jorgensen said in a letter to Mayor Brian Asher and the Aurora City Council. It's been an honor to see several projects around town evolve from concepts on paper to reality. Among those projects, Jorgensen highlighted the grand opening of Filbert's Farmhouse Kitchen in December 2018 and the Aurora Historical Society's new Preservation and Research Center this year. There is also a remarkable amount of construction activity in progress in the small town, including an expansion at Aurora Mills, a new facility for Portland Electrical Construction Incorporated, and the Conroy Classics car dealership, both of which have been approved and are expected to break ground shortly. A new drive-up coffee stand, Chug Coffee, and a new residential subdivision, Peyton Circle. At least 6 other commercial, residential, and mixed-use projects are also in the works, Jorgensen wrote. With your blessing, a disc golf course could be added to the city park. Jorgensen praised the work of Aurora City staff, the City Council and Parks Committee particularly, its efforts to improve and enhance recreational opportunities for residents and visitors alike. He said he was moving on primarily for family and financial reasons. As you know, I have a growing family, he said. My stint here in Aurora coincided with some significant life changes, including my marriage in March 2019 and the birth of my daughter last August. The decision to move on was not one that I took lightly, as I absolutely love working here and was largely financial. He said that he will always fondly remember his time in Aurora, which began in March 2018. Leaving the city in better shape was always extremely important to me, and I feel confident that I have done that, he said. I look forward to many visits in the future to watch the town continue its positive growth and cherish the genuine friendships we've developed in this time. The city is now accepting applications to replace Jorgensen. The post closes July 30th. Police Beat for the week of June 9th through the 15th. On June 9th at 3:55 p.m., methamphetamine and drug paraphernalia were turned into police after being found by employees of a restaurant. At 7:55 p.m., officers intercepted and arrested a shoplifting suspect as he exited a store. The stolen merchandise was seized and returned to store personnel. At 11:41 p.m., an uninsured vehicle was stopped and the driver was arrested for felon in possession of a shotgun. And just to make things more exciting, he was also in possession of methamphetamine, because those things go really well together, drugs and guns. On June 10th at 10 a.m., a locked vehicle was damaged when an unknown person unsuccessfully attempted to enter it. At 9:26 p.m., based on a witness description, two suspects, we're going to go with theft suspects, were located and arrested. Stolen merchandise, methamphetamine, and heroin were seized from the theft suspect's vehicle on Jerome Street. June 11th at 8:20 a.m., an intruder smashed the window of a work truck overnight to gain access. Items of little to no value were stolen. At 5:10 p.m., an uninsured vehicle was stopped and the driver was arrested for a computer crime. Forgery. He was making things on the computer. He wasn't stealing computers. Also, he was in possession of heroin, because why not? If you're going to be doing crimes, you might as well just have some of that sweet, sweet heroin on you. On June 13th at 10 a.m., report of fraud when a victim made a purchase through Facebook Marketplace and the item was never received. At 10:17 p.m., response to a disturbance at a grocery store. The involved party was arrested on an outstanding Clackamas County warrant. On June 14th at 8:46 a.m., report of a vehicle being ransacked overnight. At 11:20 a.m., report of theft from 2 unlocked vehicles. And at 11:33 p.m., response to a theft in progress. The suspect was subsequently located and arrested for theft and 2 outstanding warrants. Finally, on June 15th at 4:40 p.m., report of identity theft after an unknown person opened a credit card account using a victim's identity. At 11 p.m., response to a report of a person sitting inside a company truck. The person was arrested for criminal trespass and on an outstanding Clackamas County warrant. Hey, Frankie, do you ever wonder why some businesses aren't, more transparent?
Oh, yeah. Like some of the old buildings downtown are so dark. Get some more windows,
No. I mean, transparent as in being open and honest about their business practices.
Oh.
Yeah, Direct Link is a good example. They don't have internet data caps or charge extra fees for high usage.
Oh, yeah, which is great with all the internet I've been using since this whole COVID situation started.
They also don't charge infrastructure build fees like some other providers, and they're active in our community too. Check out their philanthropic efforts at directlink.coop/community.
Did you know that they also hold an annual meeting every year where members can talk directly with the board of directors and upper management?
Talk about transparent. You won't see any other companies being that accessible. DirectLink really is here for us. Call 503-266-8111 or visit directlink.coop to learn more today.
On the Canby Conversation today, we are at one of the most beautiful places, once again, on planet Earth at Swan Island Dahlias with the owner, Nicholas Gitz, and his daughter, Heather Gitz-Lowe. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Great.
It's just been a normal summer, huh?
Yeah, just talking through mouth. Just normal, you're right. Yeah.
So this is the first year in more than 70 years that we've seen the cancellation of the Dahlia Fest. Is that right?
Right. We don't know of a year that it's ever been canceled.
Ever since my parents bought it in the 60s, it was going on in the 50s. And as far as we know, we've never had to cancel since then.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit? I know it happened a couple months ago now at this point, but what that decision was like, just sort of emotionally. Obviously you grew up here, Nicholas. Your parents bought it, as you mentioned, back in the 40s?
60s.
60s, excuse me. But yeah, obviously this has been such a big part of your life, and that festival has been as well. Heather, you grew up here as well, and it's seen all the hundreds of thousands of people who come out to enjoy. I know it kind of was taken out of your hands to a certain extent, that decision, but what did that feel like?
Well, it was hard for me because I kind of fly by the seat of my pants a little bit, and since she's come on, she organizes it months in advance. I would probably organize it more like 3 or 4 weeks ahead.
Right.
So here she was in the end of May saying, we got to cancel. I'm going, not yet. But really, to plan all the food vendors and the music and the florists and everybody it takes, it's much smarter to make the decision early than to try to cancel late when you've got everybody scheduling things. So she was on the ball and did it early. And really, it was hard to at the time because she kept thinking, well, by the end of August, we're going to be fine. Yeah, but it hasn't turned out that way.
Just push it out a few weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, we were just torn because we didn't want to make the call, and people were upset that we made the call so early. But so many people travel from across the U.S. that they were making plans, and across the world. But they were making plans, even that even though we weren't sure, and we finally felt like we had to give them a yes or a no answer and make the call. And our vendors, our musicians, I mean, everybody obviously is having cancellations. So they were looking to us like, okay, now what? And it was hard to do, but we felt like for the safety of us and the safety of visitors, we needed to put that in place. So we weren't sure we'd be able to have the fields open, and we are going to try at this point with the restrictions given.
Yeah. So you guys are going to open them up to the public, and it won't be a Dahlia Fest. It won't be, come this weekend or whatnot, sort of, which might prompt a large gathering. It'll just be open, 6 days a week?
We're going to be open 6 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So our hope is to really spread people out. We've always been open 2 months and only been the festival 2 weekends out of those. But we are really hoping to spread people out this year, to realize that they don't have to come just those 2 weekends. There isn't any of the events happening any of the weekends this year, but to really try and come any of those weekends or during the week and see the flowers, because there's plenty of space for people to be able to space themselves out and be safe.
Yeah. And I know you were getting some questions. We got some questions about that story, sort of with the restrictions, the masks, the gatherings and whatnot. You kind of mentioned, but you want to tell folks sort of what you are doing, what the preparations are as far as what we can guess the restrictions might be.
Right. I mean, every day they change, or could change. So we're very flexible, and we hope people are flexible, because we just don't know in a week what will look like. But, we are asking and requiring everybody to have masks on indoors, as that's state mandated at this point. Right. Outside, it's up to you whether you feel like you're comfortable wearing one or not. We're not requiring it, but we are asking, if you're not able to social distance, that you wear one for the safety of everyone. We do have hand sanitizer stations all throughout the farm, so that you can use those when coming in and out of a building or just anywhere on the farm. We are going to have picnic tables available for people, but there'll be sanitizing wipes for you to use before and after your use, and asking people to take care. Use them at your own risk, but please take care and help us be able to keep them out. But we want to make sure that we have the precautions available and can help everybody with those.
As safe as we can be. We're trying. We don't know what to expect. It keeps changing, and we're just hoping the 2 big weekends that people don't show up in mass, and they spread it out over the 2 months and try to try to keep our crowds sustainable to where we can take care of it and keep it in proper. We don't know how many people would have to have out here kind of policing and controlling, and we don't know. So
we have gone to a gated system this year, which is new across the farm, and our paths are roped off and things in the evening. So we are,
all the Canby people know all the back ways.
I know. We feel bad we felt bad that we had to do that, but we did need to make some changes just for the safety of the farm. And so, if we get to a point where we're full and there's too many people, or we feel like we're at a max capacity, we will shut the gates and nobody be allowed in at that time. And those that are here can finish visiting. So we have those kind of things. The gate was planned before COVID. So
it's one of those things. It's not like a bar where you can turn the lights off or, we're close. Flowers are here no matter what, right?
Exactly.
So we just said, we're going to adjust daily as needed. We need to leave that on the board kind of wide open. We're hoping to not have to go to a ticketed system where we minimize or watch how many people can be here at each set of hours, just because we feel like there's plenty of space for people. We may have to control a little bit of who comes and goes in the gift shop. So we'll be watching that. But right now we feel like we can manage safely for our employees, for our visitors, and do it very well. So we're comfortable, and we hope visitors will come, but will help us spread it out by not just coming those 2 weekends.
Well, I really appreciate you guys for doing that. I know the restrictions are extremely stringent. As you said, they do change, and I know some people have either felt forced or just this is just, I don't think we can handle this. For you guys to actually, we're going to try to follow these because, and my next question, what have you heard from people when you did announce, that the fields are going to be open? I have seen, and I imagine you've heard a lot of excitement, a lot of gratitude that some part of normalcy is going to be here this summer.
Yeah, I think everybody needs outings. Everybody needs safe places to go, to enjoy the beauty, to enjoy nature. It's just our human nature to be social. And so allowing people to still get out a little bit, I think, is really important. And we just hope we can do it safely. And that's our plan. Like I said, we'll change if we can't. But people seem to be very thrilled. People were very upset that we canceled the festival, especially when we did back in May.
Right.
But looking at it now, it would have been canceled regardless. So we didn't make a decision back then that we wouldn't be happening now. Right. So it was the right decision at the right time when it applies to so many people. We forget that there's so many visitors across the U.S. coming, and a lot of those visitors in different states don't have the same restrictions that we do. So it's important to understand our restrictions. And
I think it's important for the people to understand that with the festival being canceled and the fields being open, the crowds should not be the same as the festival, we're hoping. So when they say, I'm not coming because I've been there before, well, if they've been here during the festival and they haven't been here on a normal Saturday or a normal weekday, the difference is amazing. To where on weekdays, it's really peaceful out here. It's a great walk through the fields. It's not anywhere near what it is during the festival.
Right. The festival is 3 days. 2 weekends of 3 days. Whereas, and hundreds of thousands of people coming on those 6 days. Whereas this is basically 2 months, 6 days a week.
So hopefully we'll be able to spread it out and they can enjoy a very peaceful, safe time here.
So, you bring up an interesting point, Heather, about the tourism angle. That's been something that is starting to get talked about a little more with the coronavirus. And I know the governor's office mentioned it in her press conference this week that they're going to be looking at that they think that that's been part of the spread as people coming from areas of hot spots potentially here to Oregon. And, I'm sure unknowingly, potentially spreading that around. But, obviously tourism, a big part of what you guys do. I know that you've partnered, and I wanted to ask you about the partnership with Wooden Shoe, which did have to cancel its Tulip Fest in the beginning of the pandemic, and you guys helped them out. But just kind of, what has that impact been for the tourism piece on farms that you guys obviously make money and make a living off other things besides just tourism, but it's a big piece of what you do and obviously something fun that you do as well.
Yeah, it has affected tourism greatly.
Yeah, agritourism,
And I think if we, don't restrict like we're doing at the moment with other people coming from other states and stuff, we won't know what that effect is having. So not that everybody agrees on the restrictions. That's, we understand that. We're right there. But we feel like we have to maintain the safe standards for everybody because that's what's mandated, and we have to do that as a business. I can't wait to have tourism back, agritourism, everything back up and going.
For sure.
Just because I feel like it's a huge part of our lives, and even maybe is going to be more since COVID because more people have been gardening and taking care of their yards and spending time at home, where now maybe it's become even more important to some. So it's huge. We did help the tulip farm out. Wooden Shoe, we were grateful to be able to get in contact with them and ask if there was anything we could do. And we were able to sell potted tulips and cut tulips. And it was unbelievable the response we got. We could not be more thankful for the community and beyond that helped take care of Wooden Shoe during that time.
And then we did the iris.
And
we did the iris pots for Shriners and iris cut flowers. And it was a good thing all around. It was good for our community. Made people happy coming out here, be able to get flowers, get potted plants in the springtime. So it worked out as a great win for all of us. I mean, some people had never heard of us and they saw that and came out here. So then they're going, okay, I'll come back in the summer when the dahlias are blooming. So it was good both ways.
Yeah, we're hoping to continue it in the future. I think it was a great way to bring, some of the larger farms kind of touched base and decided, let's do this together. And we can band together. We can help each other. We all have different customer bases. Some overlap, some not. Different seasons. So why not help each other? We've got a cute little cut flower building. Let's use it, So we were really thankful to be able to use it and share that with the community.
Yeah, you had this amazing, it was already set up so
it
well
was.
for self-service.
And it doesn't get used at that time of year. And it actually encouraged us. We've never done self-serve dahlia tubers. So we added that into the stand. Cool. And then we actually ended up doing a few potted dahlias this summer, which was a hit too. So it's kind of, just changed our thinking too of the no contact, the self-serve, trusting people. I actually even had a lady contact me on social media from Italy. What does self-serve mean? And when I went back and forth with her, she said she had to look it up and Google it because she's never heard of it because they don't have such a thing in Italy, nor would they be able to, because society doesn't function that way. The honor system would never be possible. Yeah. And I thought that was such just a kind of taken back. I'm so thankful that we can offer that and our community can, follow the rules or follow through with it. Yeah. So.
Have you guys seen a lot more interest from people? You mentioned the gardening aspect. Have you seen more sales or more questions or a lot greatly increased interest from people that are gardening more or gardening for the first time and are interested in dahlias?
Well, we had a definite increase in April and May in tuber sales, and hit right when we were in the middle of our shipping season, our main selling season. So
that's great.
I think a lot of people realize, hey, I'm not going anywhere this summer. I'm going to, they either planted vegetables or flowers, and it just turned out to be the right time for dahlia planting. And so our sales were crazy.
That's great. They ended up having a little extra disposable income that unfortunately gets spent on vacations and concerts.
Yeah. So it's just been an overall thing in the whole sum in the egg or the flower industry that most people from roadies to anybody in the gardening have done quite well. Yeah. As long as you can find a way to ship and get everything on time. Sure. But no, our sales were really good in the spring. So we're hoping that it'll be down this fall with no festival, but hopefully we can carry through and come out okay on top. So.
Yeah, it'll be a change. I mean, our budget, everything will change without festival. So, it's an adjustment, but I think it's something we can do and get through just fine. Yeah. And hopefully, visitors will spread themselves out and come and enjoy and purchase cut flowers. There aren't the big events, so I know our cut flower industry will be down a little just because there aren't the huge weddings and things because it's not possible this year.
Yeah, we did an interview recently with Holbert's, the flower shop in Canby, and they have noted, obviously, weddings and funerals, a big part of their business has been affected.
But daily flowers have been up.
Daily flowers have gone up because one of the reasons being, obviously, this is kind of a sad time for a lot of people, and flowers are one thing that can bring a simple way to bring a little happiness into somebody's life. So.
Yeah, I think that's why the tulips and the irises, and then we went to peonies, and now with the dahlias, it went so well as people needed and wanted to replace and have a beautiful bouquet of flowers in their house each week because we're there more, we might as well enjoy it. So I think cut flowers will do well in general, just not in the big quantity
Actually,
events.
on the peonies and tulips and things, we had people coming out. Well, I'm going to buy 6 bunches. I'm going to drop it at so-and-so's house, so-and-so's house. Yeah. It was just kind of to bring joy to a lot of people that were locked in or couldn't go out.
I know care homes has been a big thing. People, those are starting to loosen up very slightly. Yeah. They can do now outdoor visitation in a lot of places with family members and stuff. But, oh my gosh, even for the homes that haven't been affected by the virus, they've been shut in for months. It's so hard to imagine what they've been going through.
I know, we're social beings. We need to get out and see each other and visit, and so that's hard to do.
But screens, right?
Right, exactly. Screens just don't get the same message across.
Yeah. Well, we're almost out of time here. I do want to ask you guys just one question. I know, I think both of you, but especially Heather, are real silver lining people. Heather, you love to kind of be optimistic and point out things. Are there things that have been obviously, this is a tough year in a lot of ways, but are there things outside of maybe what we've already talked about that have been encouraging you or that you find hopeful about the wonderful community that we live in here?
I'm just hopeful and have received such good feedback from what we've done as a community helping the other farms. People were very thankful that we opted to do that, which I was thankful just in my own heart to be able to help them. But I'm hoping that through all of this, in the end, we learn that it'll be okay. We'll get through this. We'll figure it out. We may not agree. We may not like the restrictions. We've all had to adapt in some way, shape, or form. But I think I'm hopeful that people will be thankful of their homes, their places where they can grow dahlias or garden of any type, and maybe even learn about where their food comes from. When you garden, you start to see the process and learn about it. So I'm thankful that maybe we've taken care of our neighbors a little bit more. Maybe we've checked on family more, that we've kind of gotten back in touch with the world. Yeah. So I'm hoping it took us to a good place. Yeah. Or at least in the end, it'll get us there.
Anything from you, Nick?
Well, other than that, for years, we've always tried to incorporate Canby into the Dahlia Farm or us into them so we could connect. And right now, Kyle at the Chamber has put together a program where we're putting a flyer with some of the businesses in town can advertise and put the flyer in our catalog for the summer. So hopefully, during this pandemic crisis, whatever, it maybe can bring the town closer together, to work more together, to try to increase sales. And make customers happy. So hopefully that'll be a little bit of a plus also.
I think we can share our visitors a little bit more and promote each other, and like I said, take care of your neighbor.
Yeah. Because a lot of the things that might normally be happening, at least during the Dahlia Fest, when you would have food, have music, and other things besides just the fields,
right,
are not going to be happening this year. So maybe they can find that somewhere else in town.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anything to add?
No, please come visit the farm, though. Bring your mask. Be
Opening
ready.
August 1st.
Yes.
I guess today, the week before, the color's not quite there yet. Are we going to see more?
We'll see a lot more.
Okay.
Every day, a lot more is going to pop, and this heat is going to bring it on probably a little faster than we wanted.
Yeah, it's going to be so hot.
So, no, the garden should look gorgeous in a week.
Yeah.
Lots of color.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And I will be out here a bunch, I think. So
fabulous. Thank you for coming.
Joining us now is Donna Ellison of Ellison Team Homes, a firm serving all across the Portland metro area with 3 realtors based right here in Canby. Donna, can you tell us how Ellison Team Homes started?
I started in real estate. I grew up with my dad. He was a realtor. So I'm a second generation broker, and I grew up with him on weekends. And I learned a lot, eventually working with him for several years and then going out on my own. Our family moved to Canby a couple of years ago, but we really didn't know how it was going to go. And within the first probably 3 months of being here, we literally fell head over heels in love with this place. We love the community, the spirit here. The first Christmas at Waite Park, I was literally crying because everybody was walking around saying Merry Christmas and people were drinking hot chocolate, and we got in a carriage ride with the horse, and it was just too much. You just realize it's special here. Real estate's always been my passion. It is my professional love. I enjoy the people, the relationships. So much comes out of kind of the intensity that you spend with people. You're really up in their business for a period of time, and sometimes it's a couple months, sometimes it's a couple years, sometimes it's a lifetime. I feel very blessed at this point to have people that have been with me for almost my entire career. Clients that have bought and sold maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 homes. I have one client that's bought and sold 8 homes with me. 3 generations. It's a beautiful business. It makes for a very full life.
How can people find you?
How can they not, really? We have a website, www.ellisonteamhomes.com.
Well, thank you, Donna.
Thank you for having me.
All right, joining us now on the line is Ty Kraft. He's a local business owner and also the would-be coach of this past spring of the Canby High School softball team, as well as the coach of a team called the Canby Rebels, which has been in competition recently. Ty, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about the Canby Rebels, what they are for folks whose main point of reference might be just high school sports and how that works.
Yeah, so Canby Rebels is our feeder program kind of into our high school at 3 different levels. You've got your A-level softball, which is your most competitive level out there in the state of Oregon, and then your B-level and your C-level. C-level would be more beginner rec teams that are, kind of learning, beginning skill sets. So we've got a level for every team to play in our program. We have about 14 teams in Canby that we put together through the various three levels. And we're just trying to build girls softball up and get those girls to funnel through from C-ball to B-ball to A-ball. And by the time they get to high school,
Yeah. And it's not just a feeder program for Canby, right? You mentioned that some of these girls live in other towns. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. So once we get into some of the B and the A ball, we do draw from our tryouts girls from other areas, and that's okay. That's good. I mean, no town can have just an A team from their town. It's just not enough competitive girls, so we have to draw from other areas to put those teams together.
Gotcha.
But Canby has been fortunate enough to put A teams together and keep the girls in Canby who do want to play at that level. So that's the great thing.
That's awesome. Well, I understand this weekend there are some congratulations in order, Coach.
Yeah, so we won the 14A NAFA Nationals, Summer Nationals, and it's played out in Newburgh, Oregon, and there are teams from all across the Pacific Northwest that come to it every year. It's kind of an end of the summer season, kind of, championship tournament that's here locally.
That's great.
That's our second time winning it. We won it back in 10U as well, 10B NAFA Nationals. So about 5 years ago. And then we've won 3 state championships as well with this team, and most of the core girls have been on that team, but there's some girls that bounce in and bounce out each season.
Yeah. Well, I know that's awesome. Congratulations to you and the girls and all the hard work that I'm sure went into that. That's really, really cool to bring home any kind of achievement like that to Canby. But I know the burning question that must be on the mind of listeners right now is, how is softball happening right now? How is that all working? Obviously, in this era of coronavirus.
It's an excellent question. So softball is one of those fortunate sports right now that has not been shut down, but there are restrictions to it. So when we go to tournaments, you definitely have to wear your mask inside the complex, inside the dugout. Once you get out onto the field, you don't have to wear the mask. But once you get back into the dugout, you do. A lot of tournaments will have where they'll issue you 3 game balls, and only you can touch those game balls. You can't share equipment. Girls can't share bats, helmets, any of the equipment. You can't high five. You can't get into group huddles. You can't go out and do mound visits and have girls in close quarters. And then in the dugouts, they want you to spread out. So they're doing a really nice job of doing what they can, being that we're outside as well. They're doing a really, really good job of keeping that distance and safe play as much as they possibly can. And I have to say that, with the fact that we're actually being able to do stuff right now, and create some sort of normalcy for the girls, for any child that's trying to get out there and play sports or do stuff, it's been a really, really positive thing.
That's great. You got cardboard cutouts of Arnold Schwarzenegger and whatnot in the stands, or what?
So they will allow some people in the stands, but most of the parents have to sit outside the park, which would be, out away from like the center field fence, the outfield fence line.
Yeah.
You have to sit beyond the fence lines out there. They will allow only a certain number of people, like 5 people, 10 people, depends on the tournament, inside the park. And that would be like your scorekeepers, people that are doing game changer or any of that kind of stuff, they'll allow in. But because they only allow so many in, they're able to socially distance. The stands aren't packed with people.
Yeah.
They limit that.
Well, you just started to touch on, but I'd love you to elaborate a little bit of, the chance for the girls who obviously love the sport and have been, working hard their whole, some of them, their whole lives to be accomplished and great at this sport. What has, if anything, the current climate and the coronavirus and all that stuff, the challenges, the changes that have had to be made, did that have an impact? Does it kind of change the way that you think the girls or even you view this accomplishment? Does it make it a little bit sweeter in that way, or what?
Yeah, it definitely does make it sweeter. I think that, everybody kind of just has the attitude that we're just happy to be out here playing softball now. It takes a while to get in your groove. There's normal summers we'll get 40, 50, 60 games in the summer.
Right.
This summer we were maybe only, because we got off to a late start, we're going to get about 25, 30 games in. And this being our last, our goal was to get 30 games in, and we were doing some practice games and whatever we could do to try to get that in and try to make up for that high school season. Because your high school season, you're going to get 27 games plus playoffs. So,
right.
You're missing out on 30 games of, 2 or 3 at-bats a game. You're missing out on, 80, 90 at-bats. And it's hard to get that back. You just really can't get it back. So all those reps. So we're just really fortunate. And I think the attitude is just, hey, we just hope that we can continue to do what we're doing. And we feel for all the other sports that are not able to, and we're fortunate too that we, in this town, we've had the support of Canby and, Maple Street Park is a city-owned park, and they've been really great to work with in allowing us to put protocols in place and allowing us to practice and allowing us to have scrimmage games and do the things that we can do, but we're trying to be really safe about it too.
Yeah.
We're fortunate because a lot of programs are not that fortunate, and they have to use school grounds to do their practices. And we still are shut down at the high school. We still can't.
Right.
It's such a tight protocol over there right now with what they're doing because they have to follow some different rules and regulations, which is completely fine. But we haven't been able to use those fields at all. So,
right.
It's been a good situation so far.
Right. Well, I don't know exactly what direction you wanted to take this in. I knew that you did have a few storylines or a few pieces you wanted to talk about out of the tournament. You played several games. You were kind of texting me the scores throughout and raising my eyebrows. I mean, it sounds like your girls did very well in some of these contests. But why don't you just spend a few minutes, just tell us a little bit about the tournament, about the play. Let's talk for a few minutes about sports as if things are normal, right?
Yeah. So from our team perspective, we were trying to hook up scrimmage games and get as much games in as we could. I think we were kind of ahead of the curve of a lot of teams. So we were kind of going into this tournament playing more games than other teams, or have played more games. So we were kind of in mid-season form. Our pitchers were pitching really well. They were managing the games well. Reagan Rourke, she has been our starter in all 5 of our championships.
Oh wow!
She pitched an entire game today, and had just a beautiful game. We had, we focus in on just our 4 Canby girls that are on our team. Kenna Kraft played shortstop. She went 2 for 2 today, had a triple and scored, all the bases loaded triple and scored all 3 runs in a critical time with 2 outs. She made all of her plays in the field, had a double play. We had Ava Carroll, who's our leadoff hitter, one of our best all-around players. She had 3 hits today. Made several great plays out in center field. Ella Keel is our catcher, caught the entire game, and she's just one of our most consistent players behind the plate, hitting wise as well. Had a few struggles hitting in that particular game, but she's been super consistent all year long at 5 spots. So they're 4 just spectacular players that we're excited to continue to build our high school program around, along with a couple of juniors that play high level softball and a couple other pieces that get added to those girls. And it's gonna be fun. We just hope we get a season this spring.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of people are hoping for that too. Well, team wise, man, and I have to just maybe you don't want to brag, but it seemed like you guys had a pretty dominant run. Won the championship game 10-3, I believe. I saw some scores were like 10-1. Where do you think that came from? You guys your offense was bumping.
I think we won every game by the run rule. So it's 7 runs after 5 innings.
Okay,
is the run rule. So
there you go. You do want to brag a little bit.
It was a pretty dominating performance. I mean, they really came out and swinging the bats and we today was a little bit different type of win than we normally. Normally we'll just let them swing away. Today we kind of exposed the other team with a lot of small ball, and we were bunting on them, and they were our team was executing beautifully, and we were just had them off pace the whole time, whether we were going to bunt or not bunt. And kids were hitting critical hits at the right time. It was just a really well played all around offensive game, and defensively we don't give up much. Our pitchers manage well, and kids make plays, and we just it's unless they're going to hit to score runs, we're not going to give them much.
Yeah.
It's good. I personally have been super fortunate over the last 5-year run with this team, and to win all the championships and things. It's just a special group. We've got kids from all over. We got a couple kids from Clackamas that'll feed into Clackamas High School. One that feeds into Gladstone. One that feeds into Oregon City. A couple Franklin girls. And we got a couple down South Salem. One Albany girl. One West Salem girl. So they're from all over, and it's just a great group of girls. There's not a lot of drama. They enjoy each other. They have fun together, and they play hard. And they're just talented. It's fun to watch them grow up and keep carrying this through high school.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of them through college.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, last question for you, Ty. I know, it's a question that maybe some people have, it's maybe come up, or maybe some people have. Obviously, we've touched on the coronavirus. It's still a continuing concern throughout our daily lives and in impacting many aspects of it. Maybe some folks that are either far removed from school or weren't athletes themselves are kind of wondering, is it worth this risk to still be doing sports and whatnot? Even with the restrictions, you never know what can happen. There have been outbreaks at sports teams here in Oregon, including Newberg, where this tournament ended up being played. I'm sure that was scheduled a long time ago. But as a high school, an accomplished Canby High School athlete yourself and a longtime coach, can you speak to that a little bit? Just kind of what you see as the very positive and important aspects of trying to keep sports a part of these kids' lives as much as we can, with the restrictions, especially against full contact sports. But what would you say to that?
Well, I think it's super challenging. I think there's different perspectives on both sides of the fence, right? I mean, I definitely don't take it lightly, the coronavirus and what an awful thing it is, and how it's impacted people and how it's going to continue to impact people until we can get a handle on it as a society. But from the mental side of the health side of it, for kids, I think it's critical that we can do what we can to get them some sort of normalcy in their daily lives. When they wake up in the morning, they have things to look forward to, whether that's just practice or conditioning, or give them some sort of routine that they can, adhere to. And I think it's super important on the mental health side of things for kids. Not even so much the physical, that's a given, but the mental side of it, I can see the difference from the beginning of the season when we got out there and started playing. There, a lot of girls were struggling, and all of them were at it, coming at it from different places. To where they're at now, you can just see there's just so much more excitement, and it feels like things were getting back to normal for them. So, we will have a fall season, winter season that kind of carries through a little bit. I hope we can continue to do what we're doing, and that stuff doesn't get shut down, and we can keep going with that, especially some of the fall other sports. I got a lot of multi-sport athletes, so if they can't do their school sports in the fall, I hope we can create some of that for softball, and we'll see. But it's super tough right now. I really feel for the kids.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks for giving us a one bright point to put out to people. Congratulations again on this accomplishment, and pass that on to the girls for us if you would.
Will do.
And
I will.
Thanks for your time today, Coach.
Yep. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yep, take care.
Hey, Frankie, you okay? You seem kind of down.
Yeah, I'm just bummed. Miss going to the Wild Hare. I know you can still get takeout and all, but it's just not the same. They're open again, right? What?
Yeah, they've been open for a while now. Don't you cover, the news?
Hey, I'm only human, okay?
Okay. Well, I can tell you that the Wild Hare and their amazing staff are thrilled to be open again for delicious meals and fun times. They are strictly following all the recommended safety guidelines, and they have the only covered outdoor patio in Canby, with lots of tables spaced 6 feet apart and umbrellas also spaced 6 feet apart, and fantastic ambiance. And hey, if you're still more comfortable with carryout, they can hook you up there too. Find their menu and other information online at thewildharesaloon.net, or check them out in Canby and Oregon City. Anything to add, Frankie? Frankie? Oh, I guess he left. God, he must have been really hungry. The Canby Now podcast is produced by me, Tyler Clausen. Our content director and star reporter is Tyler Frankie. We also feature the vocal talents of Joyce Struby and James Walden, so round of applause to them. The song that you're hearing right now is Canby by singer-songwriter Olivia Harms, used with her permission. Find more of her work at olivia13.com.
The Canby Now podcast is dedicated to preserving independent local journalism and redefining local news with our fun, fresh, and energetic brand of storytelling. Our sincere thanks to our local sponsors who make this show possible. Please show your appreciation by supporting the small businesses who support us.
The Canby Now podcast is a production of Now Hear This Studios, Canby's locally owned full-service audio, video, and media production company. Our mission is to produce the best content in the universe, and we'd love to help you do it. Find us online at nhtstudios.com.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
I just moved it.
I didn't even ask for it, though.